Hey guys, Benji here with a review of the game Watch Dogs. Now you guys are probably wondering why I'm doing a review video on a game that came out probably like 4 months ago. And this is because um, I just finished the game today. It took me 4 months to beat a game like Watch Dogs. Now the reason being is because I just had a hard time getting involved within the game's campaign. The story started out extremely slow for my taste, so I didn't get into it as quickly as some people might. However, I did get into it on Thursday when I started playing it again, and I had an absolute blast playing it. So basically, the story is you're a hacker named Aiden Pierce in a sci-fi version of Chicago, where everything and anything is hackable. Be it the street signs or the TV monitors on the wall, everything you see can be hacked. And basically, what happens to Aiden is he was part of a heist that went horribly wrong, and his niece gets killed because of it. And the whole game is Aiden trying to figure out who killed his niece and why. And the game does an extremely good job of telling the story behind that part of it. However, towards the end of the game, there is a concern I have with how it ended, and I will get into that as soon as we get there. But first, I kind of want to talk about the mechanics of the game real quick, which is the cell phone, which is your biggest weapon in this game. Now, aside from firearms, you get a cell phone, and this cell phone gives you access to anything in the world that can be hacked as long as you're linked up to the servers. And basically, there's like these little strongholds in the game where you go and you raid them and you hack into them, and it gives you access to that general part of the city. Once you have access, you can hack things like the street signs, the steam pipes underground, things like that, and they will aid you extremely well in fights that you might have. For example, you could be fleeing from the cops and they could be one right behind you. Activate the street sign, change the lights from green to red, and a guy pulls out in front of the cops. Cops go catapulting out through their windshield, and you get away clean. Um, I really enjoy just hacking things like street signs and steam pipes and things like that, and just watching the chaos unfold. It's absolutely glorious. But so aside from those mechanics, there are standard firearms in the game. You get a pistol to start out with, the 1911 with suppressor, I believe, and literally it's probably the best gun I've used in the game. And I will get into why it is the best weapon in the game. But aside from the pistols, you get shotguns, grenade launchers, assault rifles, snipers. There's even an LMG in the game which you can get, which I don't know why they classify it as an assault rifle. But, it fits in the category very well. But you can buy the weapons at any weapon shop, or you can even find them on dead enemies. You just pick them up and it'll say, hey, new weapon unlocked. The game has an extensive amount of weapons, though. It's just amazing sitting there looking at every gun and trying them out because each one has different traits. Like the AK and the ACR can penetrate thick cover or thin cover, I believe. Some of the snipers can actually penetrate the cover too. But different weapons have different ratings. Like the AK's a 3-star rating, and the gun I use, which is the Goblin Assault Rifle, is a 5-star rating because it's just really accurate. And it's basically what you want to pick. I mean, if you want to buy an ACR where you have more penetration power than a standard assault rifle, go ahead and pick up an ACR. If you want a AK-47, which can shoot very slow but hit very hard, then you want to pick up an AK. But aside from those weapons, um, there are some special weapons in the game where you have to unlock them. One of which being the 1911 suppressed, which you get by starting the game. Basically, this gun is going to be your best ally throughout the game, and I'm going to tell you why. Because in this game, you could go in guns blazing to a stronghold and wipe out any enemy you see. However, sometimes it's going to have you go in quietly and This gun does not alert enemies to when it's shot. They will hear the shot go off, however, they will not detect you immediately. They will just get, startled by it. And with this thing, you can easily pick off a bunch of guards without them even knowing you're there. I've literally completed a whole stronghold just using this gun. It's absolute monster when it comes to stealth missions. You can even get a suppressed goblin assault rifle, which is like a 3-round burst rifle. And I have not unlocked that to this point, but I am working on it. And I just want to try and get some of these missions done with that, because different weapons have different penetration powers, like I just said, and the goblin has one of the highest as a suppressed variant. But this game does have a high focus on a stealth element in this game. Suppressed weapons, melee attacks, those kinds of things will silently get you into a base and complete a mission much faster than guns blazing would ever do. Now, aside from guns, you also have access to craftable items, which are like grenades and lures. Lures are basically these little sound boxes you can build when you find parts in the world, and you throw them out into a certain spot on the map, activate it, and an enemy will be drawn near it, which will distract him so you can either sneak by him or take him out very quietly. There's also IEDs you can build in the game, where you can throw an IED out, call it on your phone, and detonate it, destroying whatever's near it. These things are incredibly useful when you're doing convoy missions, because basically you lay down a whole bunch of these in the street, distract the guy who you want to take down, and then just blow up the rest of the cars that follow him. It's an absolute, just lifesaver IEDs. But aside from weapons in the game, there's also vehicles like GTA. There's no helicopters in the game or airplanes, so sorry, future pilots, but this is not the game for you if you have dreams of flying. However, the guns and actually the vehicles handle extremely well. Um, some of the sports cars are a little bit fast for their own good. However, this can be easily corrected by just doing little taps on the bumpers. In this video, you'll see me drive a sports car or two, as well as a minivan, because I'm living my inner soccer mom dreams. Aside from vehicles, though, and what's there to do on the side of doing missions and these little side missions I talk about? Well, there's a kind of interactive game on your phone which you could do. There's 3 different types of games that I'm going to mention right here. One of which is a coin run game where you're basically chasing a bunch of gold coins, and the objective is to get it done as fast as possible. There's also a digital trip, I guess, mini game where you can track down robot zombie. I'm gonna say robot zombies, and just basically what you do is you profile each enemy with your phone, and you find them, and then you go over to them, cap them, and the more you cap, the farther you progress, and you get better and better and better at it. And that's only available in the Conspiracy DLC. However, that's just another one of the games, just to mention a few. And the final one I want to mention, which is probably my favorite one in the entire game, is Spider Tank. Now, you think Honey Badger don't give a shit? Spider Tank don't give a shit times 3. This thing is an absolute monster. You can do many, many things with this. It's got a chain gun where you can just shoot a bunch of cars and rack up some points. You can get missiles, jump down on people and just crush their cars, beat the hell out of them with the 2 front little legs on the thing. It's an absolute blast driving it, and it's probably one of my favorite game modes in the game, if not my favorite. I mean, just if you guys want a fun and goofy game mode to play, just buying Watch Dogs for the game modes is absolutely worth the money enough, and I can't argue that any more than I am now. I mean, there's a lot more game modes in Watch Dogs. I only mentioned like 3 of them, but definitely check this game out if you're interested in little side missions like Saints Row has, because this game has quite a lot of them, and there's more on the way because the Season Pass adds probably new missions and stuff every time they update. So, a little bit before I continue about some of the other things you need to watch, I want to cover the campaign a little bit more. Now, aside from being this great hacker known as Aiden Pierce, you have a lot of ragtag buddies riding along for the ride. The two main characters next to Aiden in the game are his sister and her little brother, Jax, or little son, Jax. Now, in the game, you'll be constantly trying to keep them out of your vigilante life, but ultimately it will end up making them kind of scared of you, and throughout the game you'll see this even more when you play the missions. And eventually your sister actually gets kidnapped, and you have to go rescue her. Spoiler alert, sorry for those of you who did not want to hear that. I won't tell you how it ends though. Um, but it makes it quite like addicting when things like that happen in a game like this, because then you wonder what happens next. Does she die? Does she live? Who knows, you know? And that's one of the reasons I got really engrossed within this game this weekend. Um, but one of my favorite characters in the game, and his name is T-Bone. He's just like, oh my god, he's like the Trevor Phillips of this game, and he's not exactly as crazy as Trevor is, but he is kind of like a wild card and goofy in a way, and I do tend to relate to those characters a lot more because they're just so funny to watch in cutscenes and missions. It's an absolute blast whenever T-Bone's involved. But anyway, aside from those things in the game, I need to get in some negative things about Watch Dogs, just to kind of balance out the review here. So, the first major negative thing, actually, it's really not even major, is the combat system with the cover system. Now, I just said system twice in the same sentence, so you guys were like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. Well, uh, basically, in Watch Dogs, there's a cover system where you can go up against a wall like GTA. If you get close to a corner, however, and you press B, you'll turn the corner without actually leaving cover, which is actually a unique feature for a shooter like this. However, it tends to get me killed a lot more than it helps. For example, a guy throws a frag at me, and I tried to break out of cover, and the B button just makes me corner instead, because the B button also breaks you out of cover when you're not against the corner. Now, that's one of the major things I have about this game that I just don't like. However, I did beat the game today without having that much of a problem with it. It probably killed me like once or twice throughout the whole game, but I just thought I'd mention it because there's really not a whole lot of negative things about this game that I don't like. The next major negative thing I would have to say is the way they ended the campaign. It was more or less just rushed towards the end. Not as bad as other games I have played, but it just felt like, they did what they needed to do. Let's kind of just bring it down off this, like, incline. It's like a roller coaster, you get up, you're having fun, you're doing all the loops and things like that, and then, as you're coming off that last loop, it's like, oh, okay, now we're going slower and slower and slower, and pretty soon we'll just be back at the station, so, what now? That's kind of how I felt when I finished Watch Dogs. It's just like, it's not a great ending, but at the same time, it answers a lot of my questions and does a good job at finishing a game out. But still, I wish it could have been dragged on a little bit more. But other good news, they did announce pretty much a sequel at the end of this game. They were talking about CTOS 2.0 and it being in other cities. So we might be seeing a Watch Dogs 2 in the future. I don't know. But aside from everything else in the game, those are the only two big issues I have at Watch Dogs. So, before I run out of time here, I just want to talk a little bit about the multiplayer before I give my final thoughts. And that happens to be a just a whole other thing in this game. There's a couple of different game modes in Watch Dogs. Of course, you have your standard free mode where you can run around your buddies and crash dirt bikes and drive boats and things like that. But there's also a game mode called Decryption where you have two teams, teams of three, and you fight over this little data packet. And basically, when the team gets a data packet, you're downloading the data, and it's kind of like a mix between CTF and Oddball from Halo, if you play those games. And it's very addicting to play that. I don't play too much of it because I'm not used to the online controls in Watch Dogs, but it is fun. I'm gonna say that right now. It is fun to play. Aside from decryption, there's invasion. I think it's called, where it's like, uh, which it's actually shown off at E3 in 2013. If you guys saw that trailer for the game, it's where you could be doing something in the campaign, and all of a sudden, a guy will invade your world, and the game will let you know it says you're being invaded. So then you have to find this guy using your phone by profiling him, chase him down, kill him before he steals all your data. And this can get annoying in the campaign. You can actually turn this feature off so people can't invade your world while you're playing the campaign. But it does get annoying sometimes when you just want to have your world open in case your friends want to invite you to a free mode or something. But other than that, it doesn't really pose a problem. It's a lot of fun doing these modes as well. There are other game modes in Watch Dogs like fixing events where you're racing somebody. Um, there's even an app you can download for iPhones and Androids where you can control a chopper that's chasing somebody in their game, and basically you're pointing out locations so the cops have an easier time of stopping them. I've had this happen to me like multiple times now where I'll be in the middle of a mission and the cops will be chasing me down, and the freaking kid who's just trying to help the cops out by pointing out my location all the time, and I'm sitting there cringing going, why would you do that to me? God, you're annoying. But there are a lot of other multiplayer modes I'm sure I'm missing in Watch Dogs. I just have not got the chance to play them yet. Like I said, this really wasn't supposed to be a full-on review of the game like IGN or Machinima would do. I just kind of wanted to give you guys a brief, you know, review on what I've played in Watch Dogs and what I've done. So anyway, final thoughts about Watch Dogs. Is it worth the $60? I'm going to tell you right now, if you're looking for a Grand Theft Auto clone with a great story and a lot of unique features, look no further because Watch Dogs is definitely your game. If you're looking for something exactly like GTA 5 in every way without having the fancy title, this game is probably not what you're looking for. There are a lot of key differences between this game and Grand Theft Auto 5, but Watch Dogs is still worthy of your $60 if you're looking for a fun campaign experience. Now, for me, was it worth the $60? I'm going to go ahead and say absolutely yes, and I did give this an extremely big amount of thought, and I do say, I don't have a problem spending $60 with this game now that I've played it, and the additional $20 for the season pass is also worth it, just to get some of these fun little addicting game modes they throw into it. But anyway, so Watch Dogs, definitely worth the $6, and I'm also going to give it like a 4 out of 5 on a just general rating scale for some of the minor issues in the game that really bothered me, but at the same time didn't bother me enough to hate the game. The multiplayer is pretty good for a game that's a start of a new franchise, because usually the first games in the franchise kind of have their own sets of problems. But Watch Dogs just generally does a good job at what Ubisoft was hoping for, which was making a open world crime shooter where the world is all hackable. So anyway, guys, that's my review of the game Watch Dogs. I hope you enjoyed this. So a little bit about my next video for you guys, in case you're wondering. I'm going to be doing some Battlefield 4 commentary in the next video. I kind of want to do something like that to mix it up a little bit, because I haven't done Battlefield 4 in a while. So look forward to that. And also, a quick announcement, I'm also going to be redoing my Halo 3 ODST LP. I'm going to be recruiting one of my friends to help me do it, so we have a little bit more going on in the videos than I usually do when I do an LP. But I'm also probably going to be doing another LP as soon as I finish ODST, probably within 2 days after. So look forward to that. Anyway, guys, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Later.